Hello, my name is Bethany and this is little Lorenzo. We've got Gabriel here and Gloria, our daughter. It was a traumatic experience. I felt bullied in the hospital, and I felt as though I wasn't able to exercise my rights, whether that was because I was too embarrassed or shy to speak out, or I just didn't know any better. You sort of trust the hospital thinking that they know everything. Thankfully, my midwife was able to arrive and help us from there onwards, but it was too late. I was already induced and going down that track. I had in my mind that my birth was going to be a beautiful experience. And yes, it was still incredible and it was still beautiful. But the fact that it started with being bullied by
the nurse,
by the obstetrician lady, and it just felt like I had lost everything then, and we just had to follow whatever they said, which is why when our midwife did arrive and take over, I did feel safe again, and I felt like everything was going to be okay, but it wasn't, like we weren't prepared for what was going to happen next. And just the extent of the pain after being induced, like that was never explained to me. We just didn't know what was coming. But yes, I am grateful that it was just my midwife in the room helping us birth Gloria, until of course they came in and offered me an epidural, which I did not want originally, but obviously once that carrot is dangled in front of you, you say yes because you think that's what you have to do and what you're supposed to do. And then a lot of trauma came from the fact that I spent hours and hours trying to push my baby out, and she was just not ready, or it just was not happening. And for a very long time afterwards, I used to go to sleep and wake up in a panic thinking I needed to start pushing again. It was like I carried this PTSD for months and months on end. And it was, pretty awful.
Yeah, it was. Well, 'cause she had the vacuum,
Vacuum delivery,
delivery, which looked traumatic, probably more so for Gloria than Beth. But just watching it as a partner, I was like, it's a bit full on. But yeah, it could have been worse. It could have been a lot worse, but.
Yeah, and we're thankful that she's here safely and everything turned out to be okay. It just would have been nice to feel more in my power because it felt like that was taken away the moment I stepped into that emergency.
Hospitals deliver babies like every day, like probably hundreds every day, if not. So to them, it's just next. But for a first time couple, it's something you want to remember. So when it doesn't go as what you planned, I think it has an effect. Yeah, compared to Lorenzo.
When your power gets taken away, you do feel lost as a new parent.
Yeah, but we didn't know what to gauge it off because it was our first time.
Yeah, and what was that, 2018? And we've since learnt, we've had a lot of people around us home birth, and we've met with a lot of other home birthing mothers, particularly in New South Wales, and that was education for us. There's just one of the first things I said to Karen the day after I birthed Lorenzo is, why don't they teach this at school? Because the home birthing, just as hospital birth, because that is still beautiful and wonderful and great, but home birthing, there should be more of an emphasis on teaching young women and young men that they can birth at home, because for generations, years and years ago, that was all that they did. But breastfeeding and home birth, it should be something that people are taught about, because
I was skeptical at first. I'm not gonna lie. When Beth told me I want to have a home birth, I was like, no. I was like, no. I think I just thought about all the negative things. I think of worst case scenario of what could have gone wrong and all that kind of stuff. But then as time went on, and as I got home, because I wasn't home for most of this pregnancy because I was away in New South Wales, I was like, nah, just go to hospital, because if you something happens, I'm not there. Like I just need to feel reassured. And the midwives were good. That lady that came that time, Sharon, she was amazing, and that sort of swayed my opinion of it. And I think with everything going on in the world right now, I think at home was the right time, right place to do it.
It's funny because when I was pregnant with Gloria, all I could think about was the things that could go wrong in hospital. Whereas when I was pregnant with Lorenzo, I never ever thought of anything going wrong in this space. And you get sent through a list of all the reasons why you will get sent to hospital, and you have to obviously read it and make sure that you're informed. And I actually didn't read it because I trusted my midwife that she was going to tell me it's time to go to hospital. And I just didn't want it in my head because I knew that I was in capable hands to be able to birth him. And I knew that if there was a reason that we couldn't birth him at home, that we would go to the hospital, and that was fine. I had accepted that. But at no stage was I dwelling on it or worried about it or fearful of anything. Do you want to hold him for a bit? Because I just felt so at peace and so trusting of what the midwives were telling us, that there was no fear, absolutely no fear at all. Gloria had stopped moving for quite a few hours, and I was 39 weeks or almost 40 weeks. So, of course, we were advised to get to the hospital to be checked out. And my midwife was currently tied up at the time, and so we were just communicating via text and phone call. And I was taken into a room full of... Can we get his dummy? I was taken into a room full of, I think she was an obstetrician, and then there was the midwifery team of the hospital, and we were just bombarded with all of these things that could possibly go wrong. They use things like she is at risk of being a stillborn, and you're measuring too small, and she's measuring too small, your placenta doesn't look healthy, just all these things that... I didn't feel what they were saying was correct, but you sort of think, okay, well, they're the professionals, I've got to agree with them. But we just assumed that because they are the medical professionals, that what they're saying is true. So we followed through with what they were saying. And by the time that my midwife arrived, I'd already consented to being induced. Because we thought that was the right thing to do.
Because I went home, remember? They told me to go home because it wasn't going to happen tonight. And then I got home, I fed the dog and fell asleep for an hour. And then they called me saying, come back.
Yeah, because they said, oh, you'll probably go into labour in the morning. So we'll take you up to a room to get rest. Your partner can go home and sleep. And then in the morning, you'll have the baby. And I was like, okay, that sounds fine. But it was far too effective. Within an hour, I was in labour, and it was full-on labour, unrelenting labour. Like it didn't stop, didn't give me a break at all. To the point they had to pull the balloon out because it was too much for me, too much. I couldn't keep up with it, the pain. There was no stopping it, and nothing helped. Like the gas didn't help, the water didn't help. We tried so many different positions, nothing helped. The only thing that felt like it could help a little bit was when I was laying on the cold tiles. That was when I could get into some sort of zone, but you can't escape that kind of pain. Whereas when I was birthing at home, I sort of kept thinking, oh, it's going to be like my endometrial period pain. It's going to be on that level. But I reckon that period pain was worse than what the pain was that I experienced here at home, because I could just get into the groove and I knew that I was going to get a break. I was in my space, so I could just sit down, I could relax, I could hang out with the dog. And it just felt so much more natural here at home. It actually did not feel like I was labouring as such, because it just felt so natural, and I just fell with every single wave. I just rode it, and it was easy, and it's just easy, so easy.
It looked easy. Well, for me, it looked easy, but
It was so easy that once I birthed him, I said, if I was having twins, I reckon I could get another one out, because I just was so in my power that I was ready. I could have gone again. And when the midwives were here scrubbing the floor, I said, oh, do you need a hand? And they said, don't you dare go to bed, because I felt like I could clean the house. That's how good I felt afterwards. I had postpartum depression, and I grieved missing out on all of those weeks of being in the newborn bubble, because I used to read things of people talking about this bubble, and I was thought, what is this bubble that they're talking about? Like, the only bubble that I was in was this thick, dark fog that I couldn't escape from. And it felt like I was missing out on the newborn bubble. What contributed to having that depression was the fact that I was disappointed. I felt ripped off. But just the fact that the power that I thought I had in order to birth my baby the way that I wanted to was taken away from me, and you can't get that back again. It's been and done, and you've got to live with it and move on. But you've also got to like shift through those feelings and deal with those feelings. And it just took me a really, really, really long time, because I was, disappointed, really disappointed. I literally think that my midwife saved me on many days that I couldn't get out of bed, because she did actually come to the house and get me out of bed and get me into the lounge room. And I know that she visited me probably more than what you pay for or ask for, because she knew I was struggling. And if I did not have her, I would hate to think what it would have looked like otherwise, because Gabriel had to return to work. Like, life goes on. The world doesn't stop because you have a baby. But it felt, in that moment when I had that sort of care, I was able to get through that day by having her there to help me. And I wouldn't have had that if I had have just gone through the hospital.
Yeah, I didn't want to accept it at first, because nobody wants to see their partner going through some kind of postnatal depression. But like she said, I had to return back to work because I was deploying 4 months later, 5 months later. So I had that to think about too, as well as juggling, the home life and having a newborn and whatnot. So it was difficult seeing it, but she pulled through. She's tough woman, probably the toughest I've ever met. And it was shown on the second birth. So, yeah.
Well, I kept hearing about how home birth mothers get to go to bed straight away after they birth their baby. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. This is how it's supposed to be. You don't have to get, yes, you were checked and the baby's checked, but it just seemed so natural here in the home. We all sat together on the ground and checked over me and checked over my baby together. It was beautiful. I didn't have to pass him around to everybody. It was just right. I was right there with him. They don't even move him very far. But I kept hearing about these mothers, getting to go to bed and have a meal straight after their baby. And I just thought, wow, I want this next time round. And that was another reason why we chose to have a home birth, is to be able to go lay in bed together afterwards and be able to really enjoy that time together that I didn't get with Gloria, because you've got to see so many people and answer questions and fill out forms, and then you moved through the hospital to a room, and am I going to get a room on my own? Will I have to share with other people? Then you're told, don't let the baby out of your sight. You've got to keep the baby with you at all times. Then you freak out. I can't go to the toilet because I've got to take the baby with me to the toilet. Like, it was just not natural in any way. And in saying that, I do know of people that have had beautiful hospital births, like, whether it's in the private hospital or some people in the public sector. Like, there are still beautiful hospital experiences, but unfortunately that wasn't the case for me.
You don't want to take away from hospital, because obviously it's time and a place and certain circumstances for certain people. But having both, I felt a lot more calmer at home, a lot more calmer compared to the hospital. Like, I think the biggest stress of the night was getting the water in the pool. Yeah, I think that was probably the biggest stress. Like the whole labour, and even before he came out, it was a lot easier compared to the first time around. Obviously, women are more in tune with their body and know. I was just taking the advice of the doctor. He was like, she needs epidural. I'm like, all right, give her an epidural. And then seeing it for the second time, where she had no pain med and pushed him out in maybe 4 pushes, I think, was it necessary? But yeah, I don't know, the hospital was just was weird. Like when it was time for her to come out, there was 4 nurses and the doctor in there. It was very overbearing, especially because she had the vacuum. It's just a lot going on, a lot of stress. Second time, it was just relaxed. I was just really relaxed and it just happened. Like she nailed it. And I tell everyone, I'm like, she just was amazing, giving birth and pushing him out and just like, yeah, didn't even need me. Like I just set the pool up and just like, go babe, you're doing it. Yeah, she just did it all by herself. So the night, I got a text message. Well, I slept in the spare room just because we had a feeling that it was going to happen that night. And then she's like, I think it's happening. She's like, just go back to sleep and I'll call you when it's time. Obviously, I couldn't go back to sleep. So I got up and just started getting everything prepared. And then I was just, hanging around. And she was like, just leave me alone and I'll call you when I need you. And that was it. Yeah, it was just an easy night.
I remember you checking on me
I checked
throughout
on her,
the
but
time and bought me something to drink a few times.
Yeah.
But I think he got the wet washer for my forehead and all I could think about was, don't wash my eyebrows off. I need to keep my eyebrows on because he kept trying to wash my forehead.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it was a funny night. Some of it.
But I did honestly feel like I could have just done it. Like I just that strength that comes over you when you're ready and everything is perfect is just unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah. I think it just feels strengthened, probably the best way to put it. Yeah, definitely strengthened, and proud that I got such a strong wife and partner and a good mother. Picking up the brownie points.
But we make a good team.
Yeah,
It is teamwork at the end of the day.
We've been together almost 10 years now, and I've been away a lot of that, and even having since Gloria was born, like I've been away a lot. I think we need to grow and be strong together. Yeah, so I think through hard times we've had to really learn to be strong.
Well, this time round with Lorenzo, I only did the compulsory scans, the ones that, are important, so to speak, to make sure that everything is okay. And then that was it. I trusted my midwife. I knew that if he wasn't growing or if there was something wrong, she would pull me up. I wasn't worried about the scales or how big or small I was looking. I just rolled with it all. And that was completely different with Gloria. And I actually stopped counting the weeks. So I didn't have a countdown like, I'm on week 20, I'm on week 21. I just let it go as it needed to, which meant that when I neared the end, I actually felt the shift that a lot of women spoke about in their last few weeks of pregnancy. Like I felt like I was changing and morphing into this new woman as I prepared for him to come, whereas I never had anything like that with Gloria. And so the last 3 weeks of being pregnant were so transformative. I actually felt like everything was starting to fall into place as we were getting ready for him, both, physically and mentally and emotionally. So that last week of being pregnant, we knew that something was coming. Whereas with Gloria, we never had anything like that at all. And then when I hit 40 weeks, we thought, okay, this is when the baby comes, right? And no, he didn't come. So again, being challenged and being changed in new ways as you prepare for this little baby that wants to teach you patience, was just incredible in hindsight now. Like those days waiting for him were very, very special. And so I started going into labour of a night time before he actually came. But by the morning, I would talk myself out of it because Gloria needed to get to school and I had things to do. And it got to the point that my best friend said to me, tonight, when you start going into labour, you're going to keep on it and keep sort of manifesting it to come along. And when Gabriel and Gloria wakes up, you're going to send them outside of the house, and you're going to bring your labour on. We're going to make this happen. So we were prepared to get you out, to go out for breakfast and take Gloria out for the whole day. And we didn't need that to happen, because when the feelings came at 10:30, I was out of bed. I was ready to do it, and I just started pacing and putting the lights on and getting things ready. And I just thought, nah, we're going to do this. And he came. It happened.
Yeah, so it was good because I was stuck interstate, so that was a big stress. So I was like, I need to get home a good month before the due date, because I knew how much things change. So me being home and just getting us in the right mind frame was good.
And at one stage, we didn't know what was happening with that Queensland border. And it was to the point where Gab's like, I don't know if I'm going to be home for the birth. I might have to leave when you go into labour, and then you'll have to birth on your own. And I remember saying to him, I actually am not worried. I said, if you miss the birth, I actually know I can do this, because I feel so supportive of myself to be able to birth this baby in my home, and also with the midwifery team that we've got that will be there, that if you miss this, it's going to be okay. And I actually felt that there was I wasn't scared or worried or anything at all about that. And that was the reality if it was to happen.
Yeah. So what initially changed my mind was, well, at first I was quite skeptical of it, just because that's all I've known. Everyone I knew was born in hospital. My friends, their kids born in hospital. I had a few friends that their wives had traumatic births and issues. So I was like, nah. Like, all I could think of was something going wrong. That's just my train of thought. I think sometimes catastrophic, which is not good. So all along I was like, something goes wrong. We're at home, and all these negative thoughts. But once I finally got home, and I came to the interview, the meetings with the midwives, because I was like, look, we bring everything that we need to. We have an ambulance on standby. We have a minimum 2 midwives. They sort of sold it in a way that if there is something wrong, she'll be tended to, safely. So yeah, it was really the midwives that convinced me that everything's right. They gave me a full plan and a rundown of, hey, these are things that need to happen as soon as Beth goes into labour and whatnot. And it put my mind at ease. And on top of that, with everything happening in the world right now, with people being sick and the stress, and potentially me not being able to go into the birthing suite with my daughter, having to wear masks, all these things, that I was like, look, let's just go at home. And yeah, after the birth, I was like, probably should have had both my kids at home. So
you felt safe though. You knew I was safe.
I felt relaxed. I felt safer and relaxed.
Kids were safe.
Yeah.
We had no idea the type of stuff that when they rocked up with their suitcases and left things in our fridge and in our cupboard, like the oxygen and stuff, we were like, what is all this for? But it made
I'll get it for you.
It made us feel so safe that we had everything on hand, medically ready to go, that if there was an emergency, they had what they needed to be able to help us both. So I was never worried. Like, we even had when I birthed my placenta, my midwife actually showed me it and showed Gloria it. And I've got photos of Gloria holding a torch for the midwife to go through the placenta, and she explained the house where the baby lived. And I didn't even know the placenta was so amazing until that day. She explained to me what it does and the different parts of the placenta. It was never explained to me. But in that moment, we had all the time in the world to be able to go through the placenta and show Gloria what it did and all the rest of it. It was amazing.
It was just calm. It's just a calm day. That's the best way to explain it. Just calm. Yeah, we're both pretty highly strung people at the best of times, and I think having it at home just was calm, and it was evident in her labour. It looked like an easy labour, and even just pushing him out, it was 4 or 5 pushes and he was out. And then even the post.
Yeah, the difference in the baby as well. Well, just our experience, and obviously it's different for everybody with 1, 2, 3 babies.
Yeah.
Gloria was a high needs baby. She was a lot more dramatic, so to speak. And I don't know if that's just a girl's thing, but we definitely noticed that Lorenzo was calmer.
Oh yeah, definitely calmer. Even just the 4 weeks 4 to 6 weeks after his birth, he's just been relaxed.
He was
Whereas
so much more relaxed.
like, I don't know, I think I've had more sleep with him than I did with her.
And even his first appointment at the chiropractor, the chiro said there's no trauma in his body. He's so relaxed, a completely different baby compared to Gloria. And we're pretty open-minded people, but we didn't even realise ourselves how the birth itself can impact everything that follows on, the baby, the recovery,
Yeah.
the mother's health.
She woke up the last 15 minutes, which was really good, because it made, not that it would have put a stress on the night, but it made it a lot easier because she literally stepped through the whole thing. I think she knew that he was coming, so she woke up, and then I went and got her, and then took her to the pool, and then he came, and that was it.
Yeah, I'd started pushing and we heard her make a noise, and the midwife said, run, go and get her right now. And you ran and got her
Yeah.
in between pushing, and she came out.
Yeah.
And just the look on her face in the photos of amazement watching me give birth.
Yeah, she wasn't scared. She wasn't
No.
shocked. She was, I think, because Beth had sort of front loaded her with a bit of imagery and videos and stuff.
We
and
used
that
to watch
sort of,
videos together of birthing babies, and so she knew what was going to happen and the noises that I'd make.
a lot of my friends, when they found out we birthed at home, they're like, "What? Did she go into labour like early?" I was like, "No, like we planned to have him at home," and they were like, "Why?" I was like, "Why not?" So I think that was a shock to them. But then,
And after we had him, a lot of people said, "Did anything happen?" As if to say, "Did something bad happen?" But nothing bad had happened. Like, it was almost like they were surprised that nothing bad had happened. Well, for me, the biggest thing after Lorenzo was I felt like I could do anything in life, and as a mother, if any doubt was in my mind on being a mother, it was gone after having that experience. And yes, the days were tough afterwards. And we did have, there were some moments where I thought, what am I doing? This is way too hard. But at no stage did I want to give up, because I just knew that if I can birth a 9.7 pound baby on my own in the water at home, I can do anything.
yeah,
That's a big baby.
it doesn't take up to me, that's for sure.
That's a big watermelon.